Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's January 4th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. And Matt, everyone's been asking on the message boards at CaneSport.com, how many games can the team win in the 2022 season? So thought it would be a great day to roll out our Y at the U new feature again, and just talk a little bit about the concept of Miami being able to win 10 games. And I've been saying on the message boards, it's really very hard to predict that. We don't even have a clue what the roster's even going to look like in August and September right now. There's going to be a lot of action here the next couple of weeks with transfers, with new signees into the recruiting class. But on face value, when you look at the coaching staff coming together, when you look at the level of recruiting that is taking place right now, when you look at the alternatives coming together possibly in the transfer portal, do you see this as a 10-win program in the fall?
Yeah, my analogy is sort of like Cincinnati, right? Because if Miami was in the SEC, it's a 500 team. I mean, it just is. Like, that's where we're at. Like, I'm not going to make stuff up just to make Miami fans happy. And, you know, the fans always...
Why the hell not? Why would you not want to make them happy?
I want everyone to be miserable, like me. That's just a fact to me. That's what I believe. So, but the good news is, look at Cincinnati. That could be Cincinnati's not Power 5, but, you know, Miami and the Coastal, it's like there's nobody in the Coastal that's any good. And the funny thing is, as we were researching this story, like, we look back at the last 18 years. I've covered the team, obviously, every single one of those years. I didn't, for the life of me, remember they only had one 10-win season in 18 years. One. And I was looking, for the fun of it, I said, let's look at some other teams, right? And I looked at Duke. Duke had 1. Okay. Virginia Tech had 9. Virginia Tech's had 9 10-win seasons in the last 18 years. And, like, they're not so great, right? So, like, there's no reason why Miami shouldn't win 10 games every single year with a good coaching staff and getting recruits. The biggest obstacle to me, and it's something nobody really likes to hear because, you know, in Miami, you're a Miami fan. Why do you want to hear the bad stuff? Oh, boy, that's not a good angle, Gary. You don't want to do that.
No, something just happened here. I got to fix it.
Yeah, your lights.
Yeah, my light bulb went out, so I just had to adjust a little bit, but I did.
So, like, when I talk to recruits, and I talk to recruits, obviously, like, all the time, they're still talking about Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. Those are the first 2 names, you know, and Sean Taylor also. Those are the first 2, and then the third name that recruits mention. When I, you know, a typical question I'll ask a recruit the first time I ever talk to them, what do you know or like about the University of Miami? And 80% of the time they talk about the old days. And then within that, maybe 20% of the time they mention at least one of those guys. And, like, the kids I'm talking to, they weren't alive when these guys were playing. And, like, when you talk about Alabama, Ohio State, you know, Oklahoma, they're talking about guys that they watched play growing up. And for fans that don't think that's important, this is a total rebuild when it comes to, you know, making Miami great again. Because it's not like these are the kids that grew up saying, I want to, you know, I saw Miami win a championship in the Orange Bowl and I'm going to bring it back to that. That was amazing. Like, no, that's it. We talked about this 10 years ago, Gary. We're like, this is it. Like, whoever that hire was 10 years ago, I don't even remember anymore. But we're like, this is it. This is the last chance. These are the recruits now who remember 2001, you know, who were like, maybe they were babies or 5 years old, but they remember, like, they were alive at least, you know, and now we're past that stage. And we said back then, we're like, if it doesn't happen now, it's going to be really hard to rebuild the program because these are kids who don't know what it looked like, who don't remember how great Miami was, who don't see what it can be to be a Miami Hurricane that wins a national championship and how exciting that is, and to have your family and your friends not just go to the games, but go to the championship parade in front of Bayside, you know, where I was covering a national championship way back when, you know, like, you know, I remember the confetti and the floats going down, like off a Bayside down, I don't know, it was Flagler or something, like the players on the float, like none of these kids remotely have a memory of that. Remotely. And so that's what Mario Cristobal's up against. And thank God he's a hard worker, because God help him. He's got a lot of work to do, because you got to get back to that. And then it keeps going. And this is why I'm so upset about what happened with the Larry Coker era, because it could have just so easily kept on snowballing, and they just screwed it up so bad. And nobody was able to get it back on track.
Well, they panicked.
Well, but it was the administration failed the program. They said, we'll keep going cheap. We'll keep going cheap. Why should we throw all this money? We're losing money on every other sport. We're independent at the time. Then they're in the Big East. That wasn't real big money. By the time they got in the ACC, they were so lazy. They're like, okay, now we got the money. Let the coffers build up, and we'll have a lot of money to do whatever. And by then it was like the program was like in a rut. It was like, and then you're in this vicious cycle. Like, I'm a big believer in cycles. Things go in cycles. Virginia Tech, it used to be every 4 or 5 years they'd be great. And that's because they had older players every 4 or 5 years, and they just recruit a great class that become 4 years later great again, And like, cyclical greatness is what Alabama's achieved. And and Clemson to some extent, it feeds upon itself. It's almost like you don't have to convince the recruits they'll be great there, because you could just say, look at the last 3 years. Look at what we've done. Look at the kids in the NFL over the last 5 years. Look what we've done with these kids. Miami can't do that, and they have to find a way around that. And that's what Mario Cristobal will and can do.
Yeah, the reason why I thought this was a good topic just to talk about and comment about right now, it was on the minds of a lot of people, so that made it pertinent. But people want to know where this is headed, and they want to know what the end game is, and all this recruiting is fun. They want to know what it's leading to. And the reason that I think that this might be able to evolve into that kind of team that might be able to win, 9-10 games, is the fact that the way they're attacking the line of scrimmage here in recruiting and in the transfer portal. And this team's going to have a whole different look at the line of scrimmage already starting this season. And I think they'll make a guy like Zion Nelson better. I think they're going to make DJ Scaife better. I think they're going to make Jalen Rivers better. And then I think they're going to bring in enough guys to improve the talent level and the competition level in the offensive line room, that it's going to be a serviceable offensive line this year, to go with a quarterback that we feel now is proven. And if you're strong in the offensive line and you got a good quarterback, you got a chance in every single game. And that's why I feel good about at least being able to have a discussion of, can this be a 10-win football team? And it'll become a much more pertinent discussion as we get closer to the season and we actually see what the heck we're evaluating and what the team looks like once we go through spring practice and things like that. See who the new coordinators are, see what kind of systems they're running, how the team looks in those systems. So many things we still have to see to get our hands around this team. But it's a fun subject nonetheless right now. Can the Canes win 10 games next year? And we talk about it in our Why at the U series today.
I do have one more point for you, because only because you mentioned development. And like, this is a big thing for me. Fans, I don't know how to put this so fans aren't going to like attack me, but like, I'll just say it bluntly. Like, the development's going to be what the development's going to be. You can't turn an average player into a great player with one off season in the weight room and a great offensive line coach, for instance. Okay. Like, to me, you just can't. Like, I'm sorry. I've seen different offensive line coaches over the years work with guys as an example on the offensive line. And like, this is why I keep saying you have to get the great kids first. And then you're on the curve where they're already up here above the kids that Miami has talent-wise. And now you're on this plane, which is going up at a higher level. Like, I'm not one of those guys who buys that an average kid's going to jump up to the same level where a great recruit is already going to be at, in the same age and progression levels. That's just me. To me, more important than development, as crazy as people are going to think it is, to me, evaluation and perception. Evaluation means you just can't miss on a lot of recruits. Like, you can miss, if you have a 25 strong recruiting class, you got to have 15 players in that class. To me, you can miss on 10, but you got to have 15 guys that'll help you, and 5 to 10 of those guys have to be studs every single time. You don't have the evaluation, you're finished before you even start. And then perception is so important to me, even more important than development or evaluation. And again, fans, I'm sure, are going to be upset maybe with this, but it's true. Okay, it's true.
Well,
because if Miami is going to be great over the next 5 to 10 years, consistently great, they have to have the perception that they're great, because the downfall of these past coaching regimes, or I don't know what the word is, I call it regimes, hasn't necessarily been that they've been awful coaches, that they've gotten all the wrong recruits, whatever, you might have different reasons for this or that. The reason why Manny Diaz isn't here anymore is because the perception is this program was about to implode, and that's from the fans. Nobody's going to go to games. Everyone hates Manny Diaz. The program's done. If the administration doesn't do something, that's it. I'm not a Miami fan anymore. I'm going to root for Florida State and Florida. No, I hope not. But that was a perception, right? And the perception for Mario, you can't start to fall into that. If Mario loses a couple of games this year, early in the year, to maybe Texas A&M, maybe even a Florida State, maybe a Clemson, if you lose those 3 games, fans are going to be upset, and rightfully so. Like, you want to win all the games. Well, but what my argument is, they will be upset, and yes, rightfully so, because you want to be able to beat Florida State.
It'll be a huge underdog.
And Texas A&M losing a ton of players. Whatever.
You're going to be a huge underdog at Texas A&M. Okay, nobody is going to expect Miami to win that game.
Okay, well, the perception would be fine if you play close with them. Let's say if you're blown out of Texas A&M, I don't care. Fans will be upset. Let's put it that way instead. Okay, let's say you're blown out of Texas A&M. You lose a close one. You battle. I don't think anyone's upset. Losing maybe to FSU, yes, but to Clemson or
where's this FSU coming from? Miami's going to be much better than Florida State.
Correct, but if I'm saying if they lose to FSU, because fans freak when you lose to FSU. That's why I'm saying my argument is perception. So in year 1 for Mario, if they lose to FSU, which they shouldn't, if they lose an ugly game to even a Texas A&M or a Clemson, the perception is going to be, what the hell is going on? This isn't going in the right direction, and now your recruiting suffering. Now, when the fans have this negativity, which is what's killing the program, the fans, as hard as it is to say to the fans negativity is affecting the program and has affected the program because it hurts recruiting when fans complain. And yes, other programs have it too. I get it. But when fans are saying, fire this guy and fire that guy, and you want the top local kids coming, these are the kids who are hearing that. The kids from other states aren't hearing that Miami's recruiting. I'm telling you, because I talk to recruits all the time. You can shake your head all you want, Gary. It's the truth.
Look,
it's the truth.
You're testing my patience, okay? I'm trying to turn over a new leaf in a new year. I'm trying not to interrupt you. But this doom and gloom of how everyone's going to freak out.
How's it doom and gloom? I'm saying they just can't do that. I'm saying they can't
right now,
do that.
Who realistically could be going into next season thinking Miami's going to win at Texas A&M and maybe even at Clemson, although they may have a chance at Clemson.
They don't have to win every game. Like I amended it too. I said, don't get blown out and don't lose to FSU.
Well,
that's what I said.
I think that they'll be on a level playing field with Clemson based on what I saw this year of Clemson. Okay, and Clemson will get better. They'll be better next year than they were this year. But they've lost their coaches. I mean, that's a bleeding program that's coming back to the pack. Okay, and if Dabo's smart, he gets the heck out of there very soon, because after you've won the way they've won, there's only one way to go but down. And we've learned the hard way at Miami that it's very, very hard to maintain a program at that level. And
it's the opposite. That helps you maintain the program at that level. That's what I was just saying. You're wrong.
Very hard, very hard. Nick Saban's been able to do
it.
I mean, you can say that, but
it's so much easier to maintain a top program than to rebuild from.
No, it's not. You're expected to be in the national championship hunt every year, and that's not reality.
That's
it's
very, very hard. And you stack your roster with that. You stack your roster because of that.
Look at what happened to Clemson this year, Matt. But anyway, listen. So I don't think anybody in their right mind is going to expect Miami to go win at Texas A&M. Okay, so I wouldn't even discuss that game. That's going to be the one game on the schedule that is going to be the longest shot of the year to win. That team is a developed.
First of all, the conversation is about perception. The conversation is about perception. Perception, not wins and losses. Perception. If they get blown out by Texas A&M, and if they lose to Clemson and or FSU, perception of Miami fans will be negative.
I don't know why you keep throwing FSU in there either, because FSU's coming here next year.
Yeah, and
Miami's going to be a better team than FSU, and they're going to be favored in that game, and they should win that game.
Correct. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you maybe other people will miss my point also. Maybe I'm not getting myself across clearly. I'm saying Mario Cristobal has to have perception on his side next season, after next season, to keep what I was trying to say before, snowballing. getting the momentum going and keeping it going. This is my point. I'm
Okay,
obviously not explaining
don't
it
act
well.
like 9 wins or 10 wins is a disappointment if you lose at Texas A&M and you drop another game somewhere along the way.
It's how it happens, and fans have to be supportive. My point is,
Miami's won
trying
10
to
games
convince,
once in 18 years. You
what
said
I'm
it yourself.
what I'm trying to do is convince fans to be supportive. That's basically what I was doing, Gary. You missed the point. You missed the boat as always. I'm trying to convince fans, if this program's going to get rolling, the perception out there has to be positive. You got to give Mario a chance in year one. If they're blowing out at Texas A&M, if they also lose to Clemson, if they somehow lose to not a real good FSU team or somebody else, which happens, it happens. The perception is going to be really bad, and that kills recruiting. And if somehow Miami fans can find a way around that,
it's going to kill recruiting next year. If they go 9-3.
If they go 9-3, it depends on what the 9-3 looks like. It's perception. That's what I'm saying. It's not record. It's not the record. If it was the record, I'd just say 9-3 this, 8-4 that, 7-5 this. No, it's the perception about how the season goes and how the offense looks. And is the defense getting better as the year goes on? Is the team getting worse as the year goes on? Do recruits see the potential to be great at Miami? That's the bottom line. And you have to have that. You have to have perception on your side in recruiting nowadays. There's already so many things against you. If Mario has a lot of questions after year one, it's not going to be good for the program. Fans, what I'm trying to do is convince fans they got to be patient. Year one, to me, is an experiment. Let Mario try to fix the roster, whatever, but it takes more than 1 year. It's not going to be, we're saying 10 wins. That's going to be a great bar. I think they should win 10, but in reality, if Mario was being honest, he'd probably say, maybe he would, if he had to bet his house on it, I think he'd say 9 wins. I think he'd say 9 wins. If he had to bet the house that was rented for him by...
They still got to finish recruiting. They got to finish recruiting. They got to get the new coaches in. They got to go through spring practice.
Of course.
They have no idea what they have yet. We were just having fun with this 10-win thing. I clearly opened the can of worms, okay?
Oh, they know what... You don't think Mario looked at what he has before he took this job? Of course he knows what he has on the roster. He's not going to some team that he thinks is crap and is going to not have no chance to compete and win the ACC championship. Of course he looked very closely. That's why it took so much time for him to take the freaking job, to see, do I have the talent? Do I have a plan to succeed? He's not going to take this job not knowing what's here. There's no way.
All right, I'm going to apologize to everybody right now. Everybody, sorry. I apologize for opening up this can of worms today with this why at the U. The Canes can win 10 games. Please accept my apology. It's gone totally out.
You don't like it? Just edit it out. You don't like it? Edit it out.
Conversation spiraling out of control at no fault of mine. But, I acknowledge that it is not going well, and I wholeheartedly apologize to everybody watching that we even have brought up this subject. But while we are on the subject, Matt, I do want to bring up another thing that I see that I think makes you wrong, which is a good thing.
Explain it, yeah.
You talk about how you're not going to change somebody in 1 year. You're not going to develop somebody in 1 year. But I want to remind you that a lot of these transfers that are being looked at are coming here from Oregon, where they've been coached by these coaches for 1 year, 2 years. They're not starting from scratch, okay? Like if a John Dennis comes here, he's not starting from scratch. If Logan Sagapolu, the guard center from Oregon, who people say is going to be pretty good, if he comes here, he's not starting from scratch with Alex Mirabal. Alex Miraball's already put time into developing that kid. So just using those two alone as an example, they're not starting from ground zero.
You're proving I'm wrong with a couple of guys who haven't played a lot at Oregon that are coming here potentially, and they're not even here yet. Like they haven't agreed to come here or even entered the portal yet. This is your explanation for why I'm wrong?
Assuming that they're better than what's here. Okay, like Zion Nelson is going to have a place on the line.
I think I'm going to apologize for you saying that.
DJ Scape's going to have a place in the starting lineup. Jalen Rivers is going to have a place in the starting lineup. You got 3 starters. Okay, they got to bring in a center, because you really want to redshirt Ja'Kai Clark and let him have a developmental year in the weight room with Coach Feld. And you're going to need, I guess, probably a right tackle, because they'll probably play Scape at guard. Or you can, if they play Scape at tackle, then you got to have a guard. But they need 2 starters on the offensive line. Okay, no doubt about it. They're trying to find that right now. I guarantee you.
And by the way, I'm not saying Miami's not going to win 10 games. By the way, I'm saying Mario might say 9 right now. But what I'm saying is, they need to have perception on their side. So you're like sort of missing the boat. I'm sure other fans will hammer me and think I'm saying something I'm not also. I still think they can win 10 games. We both wrote this story in conjunction with each other, Gary. I actually wrote the first draft, the argument why they should win 10 games. So I believe they should and will win 10 games. What I'm saying is if they don't, there needs to still be the perception the program's on the uprise and on the upswing after this coming season, or it's going to be a problem. That's all I was trying to say. And if you disagree with me, you're wrong.
All right. Well, we've spent a lot of time on this debate. So what I'm going to do.
Oh, we did. Oh, my God. It's 20 minutes in already.
I'm going to create a thread on the message board at CaneSport.com. And the question is going to be, do you think the Canes can win 10 games in 2022? I want to know what all of you out there think. We'll set it up as a poll. You can put your opinions in the thread. And let's see where that lands, where everybody else thinks this whole thing under Mario Cristobal is headed, because I love what I'm seeing. I love every bit of it. I like the way the staff's coming together. I like the way the transfer portal efforts coming together. And I like the way the second half of 2022 recruiting is coming together. I'm shocked by it. Who the heck thought that, all these decent players would be available in, the second half of signing here in this 2022 cycle. But there's some good players here. I mean, that are to be had. And I'm not giving up on a Shamar Stewart. And there's some other impactful guys that they can land here. And this team can take on a whole new look based on the work that's going to go on here in the next few weeks.
I mean, and it's not recruiting anymore, by the way. It's NIL deals. Get these kids NIL deals, please.
Well, they're working on that. You're going to see. I think you're going to see an announcement pretty soon. There's going to be a big NIL program at Miami.
That's going to be the key.
All right. With so much going on, I thought it would also be a good time to roll out my 3-2-1 series that we've introduced in the past. 3 observations, 2 questions, 1 prediction. So you'll see that on the site this morning. The observations that I expound on, that the 2 teams playing for the national title are built from the line of scrimmage out. And I talk a little bit about how that relates to what Mario Cristobal is trying to do right now at Miami. I talk about the fact that I think that Miami is positioned as well as any school in the country to end this absolutely boring cycle of the same teams playing for the national title every single year. I think Miami is positioned to make a move here in the next couple of years and get into that argument. And then I also talk about Frank Latson's potential as a kid, the transfer from Clemson, who could land possibly on the Miami roster through the transfer portal. So we'll talk about that. The 2 questions that we addressed: does Miami really need to focus on a new stadium? I give my opinion on that. Do bowl games matter anymore is the other. And then I give a little bit of a prediction on where the Miami basketball season is headed. So that's the 3-2-1 column that's on the website this morning. All right. After that, we got a couple recruiting stories on the site. The first is on an offensive lineman, maybe one of those guys that can help relatively soon in his career. An offensive lineman from St. John's, Florida, Creekside, who is going to be making his second visit to Miami. And by the way, that's the same school that produced Jalen Rivers. And his name is Matthew McCoy. And we have a story on him. And Matt, he's also considering Florida, UCF, and Maryland. Your feelings right now on the recruitment of Matthew McCoy, and does he land in this 2022 class?
Yeah, I mean, I like this kid a lot. He as a person and as a player, he doesn't do like a lot of interviews. He likes to talk late at night, which, as you know, Gary, I'm up at 4 or 5 in the morning doing my own work before the day starts. So that doesn't make my days any easier. So Matthew, if you're watching, start talking to me earlier in the day. But yeah, like
you just like the Mario Cristobal experience. You like to wake up early.
Yeah. And he's, Jalen Rivers' stepdad is, I think, has helped coach Matthew, and Matthew knows Jalen's had success at Miami. I do think this comes down to probably Miami and Florida, and I feel good about it. The kid visited right before Manny Diaz got fired. He loved what he saw. He's coming back again. The key now is just for him to have a good visit. It looks like, he said he's probably going to come the 14th. That'll be a big weekend for Miami. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what else to say about him because, the thing with these kids, like everyone always gets excited. Oh, this kid's visiting. What really matters is after the visit, what we're hearing about how it went. and what the chances are, and then where the kids are visiting the following weekend. Ideally, you want to get, which Shamar Stewart will be doing, but you want to get a lot of these guys to visit the weekend before signing day. And for those of you that maybe haven't followed recruiting that closely or whatever, generally when Miami's had success with getting guys that have been sort of maybe leaning elsewhere, you want to get those guys on that final visit before the final signing day, because that dead period hits on Sunday at midnight. The kid's on campus Saturday and Sunday, goes home, and he's got 3 days to decide what he wants to do. And if he has a great visit at Miami, that's the freshest thing in his mind. So I think, in the past, when they have these kids come in on the 14th or even the 21st, before the signing day, a lot of times it's a first come, first serve deal. And I'm very interested to see what the list actually winds up shaking out as on the 14th and the 21st on these visits, because there's a lot of long shots that they want to have come visit, which people have called vacations in the past, things like that. But with Mario Cristobal, it's going to be really interesting, because if they can get some NIL deals in place by then for some of these kids, they can't do it. I shouldn't phrase it that way. That's against NCAA rules. But if an organization, has NIL deals in place for some of these kids, then, there's no reason that these kids can't come here and they can have a huge, amazing, ridiculous signing class in February. I mean, it's possible, so you get these kids on campus, see what happens, see what shakes out. I'd rather have a McCoy, for instance, come the weekend before signing day. If you really want him, that's what I would do. But obviously Mario's got his plan. He's got other guys that he's looking at also, and they're scheming out how they want to take, have guys take visits and blah, 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 blah. And so we'll see how it all comes down. And, Matthew did say that it's not for sure he's coming the 14th. So maybe he will switch it, to right before signing day, which I think would be a good move for Miami with him.
All right. We also have a story on a 2023 center prospect, Landon Hatchett. So you guys will get to start getting to know these 2023 prospects a little bit. You can enjoy that on the site today. And we also have our Canes in the NFL feature, reviewing what those NFL Canes did this past weekend in their games in the National Football League. So that's going to do it for today. If there's any breaking news as the day goes forward, we'll be sure to bring it to you on the website, on the message boards. For Matt Shodell, who I'll note is not wearing a collared shirt today, once again, I'm Gary Ferman.
There's a collared shirt in the morning.
For joining us this morning on Good Morning CaneSport, and we wish you to have a great day, everybody.